Ted Yoho is a member of the House Freedom Caucus and sits on the Republican Study Committee. A lot to study today, Congressman. I understand that members like yourself don't like this. Is the swamp winning?
They seem to have won on that bill. I voted against that. I think it was too much spending on the domestic side. We're trying to save money and invest that in America, which we need to do. And this went the wrong way. And if you heard Rand Paul, that bill passed in the Senate with no debate, no amendments being added. It was a closed process. And whenever you have things done in the closed rooms at dark, they can't be good for the American people, and now you see what's in it.
Well, the last time that we were looking at caps being raised in spending, we saw a lot of Senator Rand Paul as he tried to block some of it. But this one going forward, tell me, if you will, about the certain areas that you take exception to, because there are some big numbers and there are some areas which really need it, like in rural areas, the $50 billion in infrastructure spending through block grants to governors.
Oh, we definitely need that. And if you look at the American Civil Engineer Society, for 20 years, they've been saying most of our infrastructure has a grade of a D out of A, B, C, D. And so they're failing, and we've known this. We've got to invest in the infrastructure. We haven't had a major investment in America since the Eisenhower era or John Kennedy with the Apollo program or the Mercury program. So we've got to invest in America. We're living off those investments that were made 50 years ago. The question is, where's the investment in America for the next 50 years? And we've got to start with the infrastructure. There's ways to pay for this that we can that are outside of the box. In fact, we've got 3 bills that we're introducing to help just that. And so we need to do that because that's jobs, economy, trade. And if we don't do that, we're going to fall further behind in the world.
Congressman Yoho, I'm going to ask you to watch something with me. Jim Jordan says that the House Speaker has some problems after the spending deal. Watch.
Do I think the Speaker has problems? Yes, I do.
You say he's got problems, Congressman. Is it time for a change?
Well, you know, look, we'll have that debate at the appropriate time. You asked me if there's concerns with the Speaker. I think there are big concerns because he just presided over one of the biggest spending increases in the history of this country at a time when we were elected to do just the opposite.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Why do you say that?
Well, because we got sent up there for fiscal responsibility. This bill is not fiscally responsible. And, you know, we sent a bill over to the Senate hoping it would get better. It got a lot worse. You have the increase in domestic spending. I think it was $132 billion. We're going into deficit spending right away. Before the end of this year, we're looking at $1 trillion deficit. And the range out there, I hear $300 to $500 billion over the next 2 years. Additional spending, and you add $1.5 trillion onto our debt in the next 3 years. We need to get this curve under control. You know, people talked about the spending for the military, how vital that is, and it is. I mean, the military has been decimated by sequestration. We're consuming it at a high rate, and so we have to rebuild. And so everybody said, well, we have to pass this bill to shore up the military. I agree we have to shore up the military, but if you listen to the experts out there, and even Admiral Mullins a couple years ago, he said the biggest threat to our national security is our debt.
All right,
so we can do a short-term fix on the military, but if you're not addressing the debt, you're going to have a big bill to pay, and it's going to affect everybody.
Got it. I want to step in there because some of that I think a lot of people have heard before, and their big question after hearing what you're saying, and many of them voting and saying that's why they put you in office, is are there some people missing? What happened to the we're going to make government smaller Republicans on Capitol Hill? Where are they?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? And that's why, you know, I heard Jim Jordan's comments. Anytime a speaker is in power, they're always in jeopardy, you know, because you've got to balance things. But to bring out spending bills that aren't conservative in nature, and we criticize the last administration for running deficits. Of course, they got them under control by the $1 trillion taxes they put in through the Affordable Care Act. Yeah, you would think we would be more conservative, and there were 76 Republicans that voted against this bill. So that is cause for you to concern, you know, with the leadership bringing up a bill that 76 members of his own party were voting against it. And John Boehner did the same thing with the Bipartisan Budget Act. Only 74 Republicans supported that bill. And, of course, he's not here anymore.
Congressman Yoho, before I let you go, you know, there has been criticism even wider than within your own party that Republicans are starting to spend, if maybe they already have and have been, like Democrats. You're in a midterm election year. How do you differentiate yourself from the party that spins and spins and has always done so when you look so much like them now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Harrison. That's something that the representatives are going to have to go back to their district and justify. That would have been an easy bill for me to vote for because it had hurricane relief for Florida, it had help for all of our farmers, and we got phone calls from so many different groups that wanted me to support it. But then you have to look at the bigger picture. What's best for my country? What's best for America? Because this bill will have to be paid for, and the austerity measures that you're seeing in the president's budget, reforming or cutting programs, that's just the beginning of what's going to come in 4 or 5 years if we don't get this spending under control today. You know, we either deal with the mandatory spending or in a couple years, that will dictate to us what we have to cut. And those will be ugly cuts. We have the power to be proactive and make sure we do the cuts that are smart, that take America forward. We invest in our infrastructure the proper way and don't throw all this fluff on there.
You know, I don't do what you do at the level at which you do it for certain, but it is a sad day when it takes all, only for lunch, but it takes all of this to pay our military. Like, it's hard to wrap your head around it. I know you said that there were some options, but we didn't get to see those walked out, and we knew how important that element was. I hope you'll come back to the program, Congressman Yoho of Florida. Thank you.
Sure, be glad to, Harris. Thank you.
All right.
Have a great day.
You too.